Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Impact Multiverse of Matches card for review for the 1st of April 2022. Extra card just for the sake of a card, honestly, but they tried. Anyway, X Division Champion Trey Miguel defeating Jordana Grace, Blake Christian, Chris Bay, Vincent, and Rich Swann to retain the title. Multi-person matches just there. Anyway, match starts and. Everybody goes to the ropes for the title. Everyone ends up getting slammed in every way. Miguel, Swann, Bay are the first to have an exchange in the ring, taking each other out with kicks, and then only Bay is standing. Grace stops him to going for the ropes and dumps him with a muscle buster. Christian and Vincent have an exchange, and there's a knee combo and a pathway to the title, dropped by Miguel with a huge tope dive to the outside. Miguel and Vincent then pair off, with the latter getting an upper hand, but then closing out on the ropes. But Swann takes him out with a lethal injection style maneuver. Bay hits the art of finesse on Swann, but then gets taken out by Christian, exchanging of strikes, and then there's a finish. Bay Christian hit a Canadian Destroyer, and then they both come down off the ropes. Miguel and Christian hit a bunch of dives later, doing it from the top of the structure. Miguel and Grace chase the title off the ropes, but Vincent takes out Grace. Miguel is alone, retrieving the title and retaining it. Miguel and Austin Bailey is still scheduled for Rebellion. Interview earlier today, Good Brothers talk about facing the Briscoes. Mickie James and Nick Aldis defeat Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona. A week ago, there was the turn on by Chelsea Green. Match starts with James jumping Green into a pull apart. Both husbands try to get things under control, but that doesn't lead. Cardona and Aldis wrestling each other. Aldis and James have control early, working over Cardona. James gets in the ring, distracts herself with Green, allowing Cardona to cut her off from behind. I'm not a fan of intergender matches, but it is what it is. Now in control, Cardona isolate James from her corner, and they try to torture her pretty heavily here. Cardona and Green do a decent enough job making sure James couldn't escape to the tag, but then Cardona goes for the reboot. She then manages to dodge him and pancake Cardona and tag in Aldis for a hot tag. Aldis then drops Cardona with a pile driver and hits a falling elbow for a near fall, only for Green to be cut off. Green then takes out James, and Aldis then takes out, and then Cardona leaves Green, opening for Aldis to lock on the cloverleaf, but Cardona is there. Breaking it up, Green accidentally slaps Cardona, but as Cardona tries to hit Radio Silence, Aldis reverses it into a powerbomb. Both James and Aldis lock on a cloverleaf for a double submission victory. Gia Miller interviews Deanna Purrazzo about the interim women's championship. Purrazzo then says she doesn't care and finds it ridiculous that they're there to begin with, since she's the one reigning and defending champion. She brings up that if Mercedes Martinez decides to challenge, she'll tap her out like she did last time. Speedball Bailey against Alex Shelley. No real story behind this, but Bailey is on the chase for the X Division title. Match starts with a decent enough sequence, counters and reversals. Bailey gets an early upper hand, and then Bailey gets a little bit of offense in. Bailey is ready with a machine gun style kicks and a tope dive to the outside. Outside the ring, Bailey kicks Shelley around, but then they get back in the ring. Shelley catches Bailey with a jawbreaker and cuts him off. On offense, Shelley then kicks Bailey around until the later ends on the floor following a dive to the outside. Now Shelley is chopping Bailey around ringside. Shelley then keeps working on Bailey, and then gets ready with the head and neck. Bailey then eventually makes a comeback and exchanging strikes with Shelley and taking him down and jumping him uh, with a jump kick and a combo, ending with a standing twisting shooting star press. Shelley dodges buzzsaw kick and drops speedball on the turnbuckle, transitioning to the Border City stretch. Submission tease attempt here. Shelley dumps Bailey with a bunch of chops, belly to back suplex. Goes for the same on the apron. Bailey reverses into a moonsault, only to crash and burn. After Shelley moves, Shelley then drops Bailey with a DDT on the apron and brainbuster on the floor. Teasing a count out, Bailey gets back in the ring. Shelley rushes him. Bailey dodges and catches him with an acai moonsault. Spots for the sake of spots. Back in the rings, Bailey and Shelley exchanging strikes, ending, and then Shelley hits a moonsault and moonsaulting knees, buzz kick combo for near fall. Shelley comes back with the forearm and sliced bread for near fall. Transition into the Border City stretch. Bailey drops Shelley with a pair of kicks, but fails to land the ultra weapon. Bailey reverses a shell shock into a roll up, into a snap win over Shelley, and then hits a interesting deal there. Miller interviews the Influence about their upcoming title defense. She asks about Caleb, but they ignored the question. Knockouts Tag Team Champions, Influence, Dashwood and Rain, defeat Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans, Decay, Rosemary and Havoc, and Jalise Shaw and Lady Frost retain the title. Too many multi-person matches, at least in my estimation. Anyway, Rosemary and Steelz start the match by themselves, but Steelz dodges and tags out and tags into Evans. Evans dominant and snaps Rosemary's neck into the ropes. Rosemary's isolated until there's a fall in for the tag. Shaw then out wrestles Steelz, and then she and Frost end up working well together, taking down Steelz. Havoc tags in and pairs up Frost and then takes her down with a side advantage. Decay double teams Frost before Dashwood sneaks into a 2 and then Frost only gets a 2 count. The Influence now isolates Frost from the corner, getting a couple of near falls, and then they tag out, and Frost eventually manages to hit the Desperation Enziguri, dodging the wrestling. Havoc, Rain take out some damage before Evans comes in, and consequently Evans comes in and signature move, ending with Rain and Steckler. Then we go to Decay and Steelz and Evans are the first up. They all roll around. Shaw hits double STO double STO is pinned on Shaw. And that comes together. Miller interviews Eddie Edwards about representing Pro Wrestling Noah tonight against Ishii. He says that he wasn't going to represent Impact, a company that turned on him. Edwards is a former Noah champion, GHC champion, and then he'd rather represent them and not Impact. He says he's currently feuding against Ishii's debut in Impact Wrestling. Match starts with a lockup and escalates into shoulder tackles and strikes. Ishii's on top after the strikes. Ishii and Edwards brawl to the outside, and then they trade offense. Edwards is dropped with a power slam. Ishii tries a pile driver, and Edwards is sent on the apron. Edwards blocks that and instead drops Ishii with a DDT. Edwards hits a bunch of chops, only for Ishii to come back with a series of chops and elbows. Ishii hits a backdrop for 2 count. Edwards then comes back with Blue Thunder Bomb for another near fall. Ishii reverses a Tiger Driver, but couldn't follow up. Edwards then goes for a backpack stunner, but Ishii lands a combo of headbutts and escapes Ishii and Edwards. Does do the fighting spirit trades, and then there's Germans, lariats. Both men are completely depleted here. Ishii and Edwards go back to trading elbows until Ishii drops Edwards with a headbutt. Ishii follows up with a sliding lariat. Edwards comes back and reverses that and does the fighting spirit and does the tiger driver, but Ishii comes out at the very last second. Edwards then goes for the Boston Knee Party. Ishii blocks that, hits a Shining Wizard, sliding lariat, only for Edwards to kick out. Edwards blocks Ishii and hits the Boston Knee Party. Ishii blocks that and hits the Die Hard Driver. Couple more lariats and elbows before they hit the Brainbuster and pick up the win. Ishii will face Jonah at Rebellion, while Edwards will wrestle Jonathan Gresham. Then we go to a tag team match here. And honestly, I mean, this show at this point, even here, feels like it's just dragging for the sake of having a show. Josh Alexander and Jonah defeats Moose and PCO. Two feuds come together. PCO and Alexander and Jonah are all trying to decide who's going to start the match. PCO gets a little bit of offense on Alexander, gaining control, but Jonah tags himself in. There's a little bit of a stare down there. Alexander tags himself back in and finally gets his hands on Moose. But then Moose runs away. PCO and Moose now work over Alexander with big slams and strikes. Moose in particular, focusing on Alexander's wrist, tries to take away ability to lock in the ankle for the C4. Alexander makes a comeback and against PCO, but later he's ready to take out Jonah and keep Alexander isolated. Alexander then drops PCO with a German, but then tries it from the top rope. PCO then drops him and hits PCO Salt instead. Jonah and Moose tags in, with Former getting the upper hand and going nuts on Moose. Jonah then falls into a running senton, tagging out, but Moose runs in, and then there's another tag to PCO. PCO sends Jonah and Alexander to the floor. Jonah super kicks PCO only to get taken out by Moose. Alexander and Moose trade strikes and take each other out. Alexander and Jonah bumped fist after the match. Alexander drops PCO with a C4, allowing him to get the win. Deanna Purrazzo defeats Fabi Apache, winning the title. There is a champ challenge, which I guess is why Purrazzo wouldn't be on the ROH show. Match starts with a bunch of back and forth chain wrestling. Deanna Purrazzo is one of the better women on a lesser brand at this point. Purrazzo then starts to target Apache and her arm during the early stages. Apache then comes back with a superplex leg drop and a 2 count after running drop kick into the corner. Apache hits the Tiger Driver, but Purrazzo blocks. Apache starts to focus on submitting Purrazzo, targeting the legs. Purrazzo makes easy work of that. Purrazzo then comes back with a punt kick and a moonsault for a near fall and goes after the arm. Apache then breaks out. Both women take each other down with tandem kicks following a strike exchange, and then ends with a big boot. Apache comes back. Purrazzo responds with a German suplex, but fails to hit a Queen's Gambit. Apache then falls onto Fujiwara, and Purrazzo taps out. Apache then goes for the win, but Purrazzo obviously comes back. Apache is a certain surprise challenger. After the match, Purrazzo cuts a promo about Mercedes Martinez not being important since she is the reigning and defending ROH Women's Champion. Taya Valkyrie comes back, making her return to Impact. Taya tells Purrazzo that she is coming for the AAA title and challenge her for Rebellion. Taya's not someone I've ever really seen much in, but it is what it is. Anyway, Chris Saban defeats Jay White. They've been feuding over a couple of weeks. Bullet Club targeting Alex Shelley. there is a rekindle with the Motor City Machine Guns as a result. Saban and White start back and forth. White gets cocky, and then there's an upper hand pushing Saban out to wrestle and push him back. White then loses control and starts to run from Saban, who follows him, chops, dives. Dan gets first near fall with top rope cross body block. It wasn't until White managed to trip Saban and drop him on the ropes and then cut off Saban's momentum. White then chops Saban off the ropes, and then Saban lands on the floor as a result of this hard strike there. White is now in control, working over Saban, back slamming and chopping him around. Ring slide back in the ring. White switches between striking Saban and trying to submit him. After the match picks up speed, Saban starts to slowly gain some momentum and then gets some strikes in play until he drops White with a jumping knee kick or jumping knee. White then comes back with a snap DDT, only for Saban responding with a tornado out of the corner. Saban then tries to go for the cradle shock, but White blocks that and reverses it into a salto suplex. White hits twisting suplex for near fall of his own. Flatliner and German combo by White, follows by a Uranagi. And then Saban comes back with a bunch of elbows, managing to block and reverse the Blade Runner, and then half and half, turning into the kick. Saban and White then go for the strike exchange. Crowd's tired, but White chooses reversing into the signature moves, but White also hits a half and half, only getting the Blade Runner reversing into the roll-up for the pin, but the crowd is obviously clearly tired. Main event of the show, finally. Good Brothers Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows defeat Briscoes, Jay and Mark Briscoe. They are coming off the Supercard of Honor, where they lost the Tag Team Championships to FDR. These two teams are not unfamiliar with dealing with each other. Anderson and Mark start the match, and Mark has an early advantage, sets up a couple double team maneuvers. Match spills to the floor, becoming a brawl, which is what the Briscoes are good at. Things get back in control with Anderson raking Jay's eyes, cutting him off from the corner. Briscoes work over Jay with tags and strikes and keeping him down, but then they keep the strikes going. Jay then keeps finding space to land a couple of strikes of their own. Eventually, those strikes pile up, and Jay gets tagged to his brother. Mark then comes in, takes down Gallows, takes him down to the floor, hits an iconoplasm. Anderson counters a Jay Driller into a spinebuster, followed by an assisted neckbreaker for near fall. They go for the Magic Killer. Mark breaks it off, and ending up with four men trading strikes. Mark tags in, goes for the top rope frog splash. Jay White runs down and tosses him off the ropes, setting up the Magic Killer for the pin. Bullet Club gets the win back, making the show end feel rush, and ultimately, it is what it is. But did this show need to happen? Probably not. Fans that were there were probably happy with it, but it's just an oversaturation of content at this point. We'll be back with more right after this.